Bonjour et bienvenue au journal. Regina Leketandang est avec nous pour la langue anglaise. Bienvenue Regina.
Merci beaucoup, Vanessa Melakan, and thank you so much for joining us in this edition of the news. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Release of two lawyers, Barrister Tamfu Richard and Barrister Amel Chemenge, on Monday. The men and women in robes have vowed to continue with their strike action come November 30th, 2020. At the Court of First Instance in Bonanjo Douala, lawyers maintained sealed lips, took off their robes in protest. There was a huge mobilization of lawyers, and the two lawyers were given 6 months suspended sentence. We shall be bringing you the drama in court in this Newscast Plus.
Après quelques jours de détention, les avocats Richard Tamfu et Tuemene écopent de 6 mois de prison avec sursis. La nouvelle est tombée hier soir au sortir de l'audience qu'abritait le tribunal de première instance de Douala.
And we shall equally be taking you to the Northwest Regional Capital, Bamenda, where construction works for the Disarmament Center in the Northwest region have kicked off this morning. The center, intended to rehabilitate ex-fighters of the Anglophone separatist movement, is expected to go operational in December. Our reporter Annie Collins is live for us in Bamenda for this news.
Douala doit devenir une métropole moderne tournée vers l'avenir. Déclaration faite ce matin par le maire de la ville qui installait ses nouveaux collaborateurs. Nous l'écouterons dans ce journal. Voilà pour la une.
Thank you so much for joining us in this edition of the news. Now, despite the release of two lawyers, notably Barrister Tamfu Richard and Barrister Amel Chemenge on Monday, the men and women in robes and wigs have vowed to continue with their protests come November the 30th, 2020. At the Bonanjo Court of First Instance on Monday, there was a heavy mobilization of lawyers who came to witness the case. However, in court, the lawyers maintained sealed lips, took off their robes in protest of the procedure. In the following report, Morindi tells us the two lawyers were served a suspense, or rather a sentence of 6 months suspended sanction. And the following report, Morindi says that the lawyers have vowed to appeal the decision of the court.
It was a marathon judgment at the Court of First Instance in Bonanjo Douala that witnessed two suspensions, provoking enormous tension in the courtroom.
It is not necessary for that clash to always happen, because that kind of force can get out of hand and the entire nation will suffer. There's every reason for us, when we have this kind of problem, for the bar and the bench to meet in Wicklow and discuss and solve the problem. It wasn't necessary.
The more than 50 lawyers, some who traveled all the way from the Southwest region, had mobilized for the defense of Barrister Tamfu Richard and Barrister Amel Chemenge, picked up and charged for violence at the Court of First Instance, where lawyers were tear-gassed by police and gendarme officers, took a unanimous decision to take off their wigs and robes and remain defenseless, watching in protest. The lawyers, amongst them two former Bar Council presidents, challenged the court to sentence their two colleagues, an attitude also upheld by the two accused who maintained sealed lips in the course of the trial.
The two gentlemen pleaded not guilty, and we expected the court to produce the witnesses so that you could give evidence of what happened, and then the accused persons will have an answer to give. But surprisingly, it was the Procureur de la République who gave the evidence and gave the exhibit in court. That is not the procedure. And so the aspect of cross-examination, examination in chief and re-examination was not seen in this court. So it was more like a miscarriage of justice.
At the end of the day, they were given a 6-month suspended sentence. The lawyers have described the entire judgment as a sham and have vowed to appeal.
They have been given 6 months suspended sentence for 3 years. It means they can go home, and that if they commit this kind of offense again, then they would have to serve the 6-month sentence before they are prosecuted. So they will have to walk home knowing that there's a charge on their head.
Despite the judgment, which seems in the favor of lawyers, they still remain steadfast towards their protest come November 30, 2020.
And in the same light, there was a heavy mobilization of Anglophone lawyers, most of whom came from the southwest region of the country. Among the lawyers was Barrister Eban Toko Justice, who says that the whole process violated basic fundamental principles of the criminal trial. Take a listen to the following excerpt selected for us by Monzi.
For me, I think it's a sham. And when I say it's a sham, I mean that it's a decision that the whole process was carried out in a way that violated the basic fundamental principles of criminal trials. Because to us, and according to the Criminal Procedure Code, when a man says he's not guilty, it puts the burden of proof on the prosecution. The prosecution is now required to adduce evidence through witnesses, right, which is going to lay the foundation whether or not there is a case to answer. But in this case, once the accused person said they were not guilty, the court proceeded to allow the state counsel to read a report which formed the evidence of the prosecution. The issue is not whether the sentence was suspended. The issue is whether the sentence ought to have been meted on them in the first place, whether there would have been a conviction at all. And we think strongly that from the evidence that had been gathered, that we followed from the court process, there was no evidence to convict, not even the slightest. Because if you look at the Criminal Procedure Code, it says you can only convict when there is, once there is any doubt, you must acquit. And in this case, there are lots of doubts because the case file was empty. The case file was empty. There was an allegation that the suspects destroyed some benches from the court. Those benches were not tendered in evidence. There were allegations that they insulted or insurrected against, insulted the judge. The judge who was insulted was never called to testify. Those are the things that we are saying, that in a criminal trial where the liberty of somebody is at stake, we are talking about the liberty of a lawyer, for an incident that happened or purportedly occurred in the courtroom. Okay. It brings to play, this is where the courts in this country should have demonstrated that there is some independence and some impartiality. But I think that they failed in that.
Now, lawyers have maintained, despite the conditional release of 2 of their colleagues, the strike action will still go on come November 30th, 2020. Take a listen to the following excerpt.
The recent arrest and detention of lawyers in Cameroon have raised concerns and questions the very essence of the justice system in the country. A planned strike by lawyers against the arrest has been described as important, with a wish that the strike could be extended longer than planned for it to create the expected impact.
I would have expected 1 month because the harm that has been done to lawyers, we need enough time to prove to the society that the only person that the law has given the powers to defend you is a lawyer. The lawyer has a cardinal, a fundamental position in the court.
The executive entity, therefore, seemed to enforce its domineering power since the judiciary is short of the independence it deserves.
Practically, we discovered that there is no separation of power in Cameroon. Why? Because the judiciary, the executive, has exclusive power on the judiciary. You should note that magistrates are trained in a state-owned ENAM, right? They are being schooled to believe that the judiciary, the executive, is superior.
This, however, undermines the purpose of separation of power in a democracy like Cameroon.
Look at what is happening in the U.S. You see that some of the courts are ruling already against Trump, who is contesting elections. Have you seen anywhere in this country that have ruled against anything that concerns the executive? They don't.
With the current political system in the country, mitigating political intrusion and interference to judicial independence might just be a dream.
That was rather a report talking about the separation of power between the executive and judiciary done for us by Gladys Ambodiba. I will now take you to Northwest Regional Capital, Bamenda, where construction works for the Disarmament Center have kicked off this morning in Bamenda. The center intended to rehabilitate ex-fighters of the Anglophone separatist movement is expected to go operational in December. Our reporter Annie Collins is live for us in Bamenda, Northwest region of Cameroon. Hello, Annie Collins.
This is the new site that is expected to host the Armament Demobilization and Reintegration Center here in Bamenda. It is under construction. As you can see, caterpillars are rumbling in the background. Buildings are erupting, and buildings are mushrooming here. And the ground is being leveled for everything to be okay by December, when this center is expected to go operational. And we have been made to know here that President Paul Biya has injected the sum of 1.2 billion CFA francs to get this center up, and some of the strategic partners of the putting in place of this center have arrived here in Bamenda today in company of the national coordinator, who is also here on a visit today. We are just next to the command post of the 3rd Rapid Intervention Battalion here in Bamenda, which is just next to the Bamenda airport as well. So we have been going around and seeing the new charm that is being set in place, so that those in the bushes can come out and enjoy these facilities that are being put here by the Cameroon government, so that those who accept to drop their arms and leave the bushes will come here and enjoy a nice stay out here at the DDR Center. This is a new site, as we have said time and again, that the old site or the present site is very, very tight, and so there will be very spacious here on a very large surface that is being constructed here at the Mancon area next to the Bamenda airport. This is Annie Collins reporting for Canal International in Bamenda.
Les deux avocats, maître Richard Tamfou et maître Thué Meunier, écroués vendredi dernier pour outrage à magistrat et destruction de biens, ont finalement été libérés hier soir. Après un court séjour à la prison centrale de Newbel, ils ont écopé chacun de 6 mois de prison avec sursis pendant 3 ans, ainsi que de 100 000 francs CFA d'amende et 28 000 francs CFA de dépenses. De plus, les charges pour destruction de biens publics et rébellion en coaction ont été retenues contre eux. Pendant ce temps, il ne reste plus que 6 jours pour le début de la grève annoncée par l'Ordre des avocats au barreau du Cameroun. Qu'est-ce que cela implique exactement? Les huissiers de justice vivent déjà très mal la situation actuelle et l'expriment dans ce reportage de Karel Mezachachoya et Luc Vondor.
Ils ont vu leur image ternie et ils réclament réparation. Le Conseil de l'Ordre des avocats au barreau du Cameroun n'entend pas lâcher prise si rien n'est fait, tel que mentionné dans les résolutions de la session extraordinaire du 21 novembre dernier.
En signe de protestation, et ce jusqu'il soit mis fin à cette véritable cabale par la libération de tous les avocats détenus d'une part, et d'autre part dans le but de redorer le blason de la profession ainsi souillée.
Un débat profond et serein autour de la question de la corruption dans le milieu judiciaire, d'où seraient partis les échauffourées entre avocats, magistrats et forces de l'ordre, aurait réglé le problème de l'avis du chroniqueur judiciaire rencontré ce matin.
On a une dérive, j'allais dire violente, où on voit que les avocats sont interpellés désormais en cascade, poursuivis devant le juge correctionnel, mais placés quand même en détention provisoire. C'est ça qui est un peu surprenant.
C'est justement ce qui coince. Les avocats aux arrêts présentent des garanties de représentation telles que prévues dans le Code de procédure pénale. Le flou persiste sur les raisons pour lesquelles ils ne comparaissent pas libres. La Constitution proclame pourtant le principe de présomption d'innocence dans notre pays.
Je pense que c'est ça qui pousse le Conseil de l'Ordre, qui avait gardé quand même une certaine tiédeur vis-à-vis de la situation, à aller au bout. Le corps du bâtonnier qui devrait être exposé sur la place judiciaire de Douala à la Cour d'appel et faire un tour ici pour les hommages à la Cour suprême ne sera pas. Ça signifie qu'ils ne veulent plus de cette convivialité-là avec les magistrats. Or, les moments de deuil sont les moments de grande convivialité dans la famille judiciaire. C'est quelque chose de très très grave.
Mais que faut-il faire pour sortir de cette impasse?
Les organes disciplinaires des deux corps ont presque abandonné le combat contre la corruption et contre l'indiscipline dans le corps.
Les huissiers de justice, également affectés par cette situation, plaident pour une sortie de crise.
Ce qui arrive aux avocats peut aussi arriver aux huissiers de justice. Donc nous condamnons fermement l'acte qui a été posé parce qu'au bout du compte, c'est le justiciable qui doit subir.
Ils attendent impatiemment la fin de cette affaire.
Autre actualité, installation de nouveaux responsables à la mairie de la ville de Douala ce mardi. Cela marque un véritable départ à l'implémentation de la nouvelle vision impulsée par Roger Mbassa Diné. La cérémonie d'installation était pour le super-maire une occasion de rappeler les objectifs qu'il compte atteindre dans la ville, mais également d'interpeller ses collaborateurs à plus de travail. Nous l'écoutons au micro de Robert Charlitoc.
Les hommes et les femmes qui ont été nommés ont été choisis sur la base de leur profil, c'est-à-dire à la fois de leur formation et de l'expérience. Maintenant, on jugera le maçon au pied du mur. Douala doit devenir, selon le mot du chef de l'État, une métropole moderne tournée vers l'avenir. Les mots ont un sens. Métropole a un sens, ce n'est pas une ville ordinaire. C'est une ville qui doit rayonner comme une métropole nationale, métropole sous-régionale. Douala doit devenir un centre d'intérêt. C'est pour ça qu'il faut construire la ville. Nous avons beaucoup de plans, mais il faut maintenant passer des plans à la réalisation des projets. Dans une ville, il y a des choses qui sont essentielles. Vous avez vu, l'éclairage public est revenu. Nous avons changé cet éclairage pour qu'il soit plus intense la nuit. Je vous invite à visiter le boulevard de la Liberté. La nuit, vous verrez le changement. Ça, c'est l'éclairage public. On va en faire partout. Et les services, la communauté urbaine doivent être à mesure d'assurer à l'exécutif municipal que dans toute la ville, il y a l'électricité. Il y a tout ce qui permet aux habitants de vaquer aux occupations, la mobilité. Il faut que les routes soient bien entretenues. Il faut que les moyens de transport soient à propos de la sécurité.
Ce 24 novembre est journée internationale de la Bible, occasion de parcourir les Saintes Écritures et encourager les chrétiens à la lecture. L'événement Bible Investment Soul, rendu à sa 3e édition, s'est voulu une rencontre de sensibilisation des participants. Le compte rendu de Yasser Trésor-Tanon et Calvin Tekam.
Biblical Investment of Soul, en abrégé BIOS. C'est la 3e édition ici à Douala, avec pour thème Lumière sur la Bible. Et c'est à l'occasion de la Journée internationale de la Bible qui se célèbre ce 24 novembre. L'amour est à l'ordre du jour dans tous les messages.
Nous faisons allusion à ce que notre Seigneur Jésus-Christ a accompli comme grande œuvre à la croix. Et il a fait cela par amour. Tout le message de la Bible pour faire allusion à l'amour.
Lire sa Bible tout le temps est une arme pour le chrétien.
Quand nous allons dans le livre de Josué, chapitre 1, son verset 8, la Bible déclare que ce livre de la loi ne s'éloigne point de votre bouche. Méditez-le jour et nuit, afin d'agir fidèlement selon tout ce qui est écrit.
Cette édition de BIOS reconforte plus d'un participant.
Je bénis Dieu pour ce mouvement, parce que ça porte la parole à se répandre dans tout la contrée, dans le monde entier, et que ces moments sont multipliés.
Pour mieux véhiculer l'enseignement biblique, il existe la plateforme Parole de vie, où des membres sont hyper actifs.
Donc ça a pour but d'aider les gens qui ne peuvent pas lire la Bible d'eux-mêmes, de pouvoir suivre le programme que nous leur donnons. Et jusqu'ici, je pense que ça se passe très bien parce que nous sommes rendus déjà à presque un mois de la fin de ce programme.
La Bible passée en version numérique, il est désormais plus pratique d'avoir une copie dans son téléphone.
La suite de ce journal, c'est avec vous, Regina Leke.
Thank you very much. And we take you to the east region of Cameroon, where some young people involved in the exhumation of human bones have been nabbed in Belabo, east region of the country. Now, the young people have confessed that they were hoping to sell those human bones to a dealer who promised them millions. This report images courtesy Kisito Kumai. It is the end of the road for these presumed traffickers of human bones. They were arrested by forces of law and order in Belabo, east region of Cameroon. Biele Olivier, 32 years old, is accused of having desecrated the tomb of a late man in Benang, in Upper Sanaga division. He was hoping to sell for millions before he was caught in Belabo.
Yes,
yesterday we got information from the community that a grave had been opened and the body was being taken away. I sent members of the vigilante group to go and verify, and when they did, they realized indeed a tomb had been opened.
C'est juste derrière là.
It was behind me that the crime was committed. After our investigation, we were led here and discovered a body was removed from the tomb. The accused explains he was introduced into the business by a close friend. A friend of mine, whom I have known for some time, called me and told me to accompany him somewhere. When we got there, he took the bag from me, and when he came back, the bag was so heavy. When we got to the control post, we were stopped, and to my greatest surprise, it was human bones in the bag. The exhumation of dead body parts is not new to Belabo community in particular, or the East region in general. The police is, however, bent on tracking down all those involved in the chain of business. Now, for several years, children have been victims of all sorts of abuse, ranging from sexual abuse, child trafficking, or child labor. But that may be about to change. Now, the Parliamentary Network for Youth Advocacy, accompanied by Plan International, has defended the institution of a court that will henceforth protect the rights of children in Cameroon and also guarantee their welfare. Our reporter Beatrice Ngamo was at the Parliament and brought back this report.
Fragile and vulnerable are our children, exposed to all sorts of societal ills here in Cameroon.
Children associated with armed groups, internally displaced children, child laborers, including domestic workers, children victims of cultural beliefs and harmful practices, children victims of sexual abuse and violence, maltreatment, neglect, and child trafficking, children subjected to early and or forced marriage.
The rights of the child are outlined in the Constitution as well as in many legal instruments like the Convention on the Rights of the Child. Cameroon ratified January 1993 strong commitments to protect and promote the rights and welfare of the child.
We are concerned that the effort made to strengthen the child protection system in Cameroon are insufficient, especially in a changing world subject to disasters like the current COVID-19, conflict and crisis affecting the most vulnerable children.
Important, therefore, to put the many bills, laws, treaties in one single document, the Child Protection Code.
The desire to group them together in a single enhanced text as a code for the protection of the child in Cameroon is laudable.
That is what the Parliamentary Network for Youth Advocacy REGE, with President Joshua Osei, put before the people's representatives at the National Assembly as an advocacy November 23rd.
It is a text ready that we want to submit for your appreciation and recalling that it is important for the need of our children.
The exchange, it is hoped, will thus facilitate the process of adopting the emergency code for the protection of the child here in Cameroon.
And still talking about the right of children, this time digital right. A workshop is going on in the nation's capital, Yaoundé, to train young people on information communication technology. Our reporter Beatrice Ngamo has been following this workshop that has been organized by UNICEF and its partners and brought back this report.
Their vision, a day to reimagine a future without discrimination. And due to the fact that following the world from a particular point is possible, thanks to information and communication technology, these actors have understood the new trends. Why? They decided to initiate these young children in the computer world. The focus of this working session in Yaoundé.
Promote, accompany, and encourage children to be interested in ICT experience in order to ensure a future very important to us.
The learners, primary school pupils, and secondary school students salutes the initiative with determination to grab all the benefits.
I love it. I am very happy to be here because I know that in the future it will be something that will be very good. So I invite all parents to come with their children and to do the same.
The trainers, in a playful manner, offers them the notion and techniques, robot lessons also, with the added value.
Les enfants qui sortis d'ici seront en mesure.
Children, after training, will understand how these new technology function, a clear view of them, the opportunity they offer in the future.
Leurs offres, les technologies.
The second time this team is organizing such training, but different this year because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Why? The training ongoing in other towns of the country at the same time.
L'hôpital de district de Tchang a fait peau neuve grâce à l'action du Cercle des Amis du Cameroun. Le centre hospitalier s'est vu rénové et équipé d'appareils de pointe. Un don dont la cérémonie officielle a été présidée par Grace Diangouté qui représentait Chantal Biya. Le compte rendu d'Éric Matanet. Quelques soucis techniques avec ce reportage que nous diffuserons certainement ce soir aux 19h50. Et c'est donc la fin du journal. Merci de l'avoir suivi. Bon après-midi, Regina Lequel.
Good afternoon, Vanessa Melakanem. Thank you so much for watching. Good day and God bless.